Ever get that feeling? Like you're ready to jump into something big, something important, but then hesitation.
Oh, yeah, that feeling of should I, shouldn't I? It's like we're all wired for that internal struggle.
It really is, that gap between what we want to do and actually doing it. And that's exactly what we're tackling today. We're going deep, deep into some fascinating Islamic sources.
Looking at how, from an Islamic perspective, we can sort of break through that barrier, that hesitation.
Exactly. It's about finding that inner strength, that confidence to act with purpose. And what's so cool about the sources we've got here,
They don't just talk about theology, they bring in this whole psychological angle, too.
it's like a practical roadmap for taking those ideas and turning them into action, turning hesitation into, well, decisiveness.
Right, and that's our mission today, building a framework step by step using these Islamic teachings.
Love it. So where are we headed on this journey? Well, first we're diving into the core connection, faith, action, and inner strength. Like, how do those work together?
Then we'll look at purpose. What's the Islamic perspective on why we're even here? And how does that tie into, well, everything else?
Huge question. And then there's that age-old debate, divine decree versus free will. How much control do we actually have?
Right, and how do we understand that? Plus, we got practical stuff, too, like how do we deal with pressure from outside and from inside?
Those negative thoughts that can just hold us back. And then there's uncertainty. Life's full of it. How do we deal with that?
And finally, motivation. What truly drives us? Is it all about profit? Or is there something deeper, especially from an Islamic viewpoint?
So much to unpack. But our goal isn't to overwhelm you. It's to find that balance, that insightful perspective you can actually use.
Practical wisdom drawn from these Islamic sources.
Exactly. So let's start building. First things first, that foundation. Faith, action, and inner strength. One big idea that jumps out from both psychology and Islam is self-confidence.
Right. And from the psychology side, we've got this concept of self-efficacy. It's the work of a guy named Albert Bandura. Basically, it's about how much you believe in your ability to, well, get things done.
To plan and execute, to achieve what you set out to do.
And the key here is, it's not about what you're actually capable of, but what you believe you're capable of. That perception is powerful.
So it's that feeling of, I can figure this out, that conviction that you can make progress. And the sources we've got, they point to 4 main ways the self-efficacy grows.
Yeah. First up, we've got mastery experiences. Like, think back to a time you succeeded at something similar. That feeling of, I did it before, I can do it again.
Makes sense. Success breeds confidence. What's next?
Vicarious experiences. This one's about seeing other people, folks who are like you, achieving their goals. It's like, if they can do it, maybe I can too.
That seeing is believing kind of thing.
Exactly. And then there's verbal persuasion, having people you trust, folks who are supportive, giving you encouragement. Positive words can really make a difference.
For sure, that boost from people who believe in you.
And lastly, it's your own internal state. Your physiology, your emotions. Are you feeling healthy? How do you interpret those feelings? All of that can impact your confidence.
It's like your overall well-being feeds into that belief in yourself.
Right. So we've got these 4 sources. But what about actually building self-efficacy? The sources have some practical tips, too.
Yeah, like breaking down those huge tasks into smaller, more manageable ones feels less overwhelming that way.
Right, and taking time to reflect on past wins. Remind yourself, hey, I've done some amazing things already.
Celebrate those victories.
Definitely. And don't be afraid to ask for feedback. Constructive criticism. It can help you grow.
Getting insights from others, seeing things from a different angle.
And of course, managing anxiety. Finding healthy ways to cope with stress so it doesn't sabotage your confidence.
Solid advice all around. Now, shifting gears a bit, bringing in that Islamic perspective, there's this beautiful concept of tawakkul. How does that fit in with taking action?
Tawakkul is all about putting your trust in Allah, complete reliance on God. It's like this deep-seated understanding that He's got you.
And that's fundamental in Islam, right?
Absolutely. The Quran itself says that Allah is enough for those who truly trust in Him. But here's the thing, tawakkul isn't about just sitting back and waiting for things to happen.
It's not passive, right? There's still effort involved.
Exactly. That's where the story of the camel comes in. Remember, the Prophet, peace be upon him, advised, tie your camel first, then put your trust in Allah.
Love that story. It's about taking responsibility, doing your part, and then having that faith in God's plan.
It's that beautiful combination. And tawakkul brings this amazing inner peace, this strength, because, deep down, everything's ultimately in Allah's control.
It frees you from that constant worry about the outcome.
Absolutely. So it's
Yeah.
not a choice between self-efficacy and tawakkul. They actually work together.
It's like this beautiful synergy. We strive, we use our God-given abilities, but we also have that unwavering trust in him.
And that really challenges that misconception that tawakkul is about being passive. It's quite the opposite.
It's about acting with confidence, knowing that you're not alone in your efforts. Now, all this leads us to another crucial element, understanding our purpose in life. What's the Islamic perspective on that?
Well, in Islam, the primary purpose of our existence is worshiping Allah. It's called ibadah. But it's not just about rituals.
It's more than that, right?
So much more. It's about every aspect of life, our obedience to God, our beliefs, actions, even our intentions.
It's like orienting our whole being towards pleasing God. That's a profound thought.
It is. And the Quran, in Surah Ad-Dariyat, makes it clear. And I did not create the jinn and mankind except to worship me.
So how does understanding this purpose affect our tendency to hesitate?
When your actions are rooted in that sincere desire to please Allah, those social pressures, those negative thoughts, they lose their grip.
It's like having a higher goal, something more meaningful than those fleeting worldly concerns.
Exactly. Your focus shifts to a more eternal perspective. And there's this interesting Sufi viewpoint as well.
Oh, tell me about that.
Sufis, they see the purpose of creation as part of Allah's desire to be known. Like it adds this whole other layer to why we're here.
That's fascinating. So we've got this foundation now, but how do we actually navigate life knowing all this? How does divine decree fit in?
That's where things get interesting. The Islamic concept of divine decree, it's often called qadar or qada wa qadar. It means that Allah has this comprehensive plan, a preordained plan for everything.
So everything's already decided.
In a way, yes. Muslims believe Allah, with his infinite knowledge and wisdom, knows and controls everything that happens. And this is sometimes linked to the idea of the preserved tablet, where everything that will ever happen is already written down.
Okay, so if everything's already decided, doesn't that make our efforts meaningless? Like, what's the point of even trying?
That's where the big question comes in. Free will. How do we reconcile divine decree with our own choices?
That's a tricky one.
It is. But Islam is very clear. We have free will. We're responsible for our actions. Allah gave us the ability to think, to choose, to act. And that freedom, that's also part of his plan.
But I remember a verse from the Quran, but you cannot will unless Allah wills. Doesn't that mean our choices are limited?
It's about understanding the interplay. Our capacity to choose, that's a gift from Allah. It's part of his decree. And because we have that choice, we're held accountable for it. We'll answer for our actions on the day of judgment.
So it's not a free-for-all. There are boundaries.
Right. And throughout Islamic history, scholars have debated this. But the mainstream Sunni understanding is that Allah creates everything, including our actions. But we choose to perform those actions, and we're responsible for those choices.
So blaming God for our bad deeds or saying, well, it's qadar, that's not an excuse.
Absolutely not. You can't justify wrong actions by saying Allah made you do it. That would mean you know the unseen, which we don't.
So what's the takeaway? How should we approach this concept of qadar in our daily lives?
It's about effort. It's about striving. Belief in qadar should inspire us to do our best, knowing the ultimate outcome is with Allah. Think of the camel story again. We tie the camel, we take the necessary steps, and we leave the rest to God.
It's about that balance, that trust in Allah without becoming passive.
Exactly. And dua, prayer, is crucial here. We seek God's guidance, his help in our efforts.
So it's all interconnected. Our effort is a means ordained by Allah.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
When we face uncertainty, we seek knowledge, make informed decisions, put in the effort, and then trust in Allah's plan. It's about acting with confidence, rooted in our faith. Now, let's talk about what often holds us back, those barriers to action.
The things that make us hesitate. And those can come from outside and inside, right?
Absolutely. One big external pressure is the need for social acceptance. We all want to fit in, be accepted by those around us.
It's that natural human desire.
Right. But Islam guides us to prioritize Allah's pleasure over people's approval. We should be kind, maintain good relationships, but our ultimate goal is to please God.
So how do we balance that? Especially when what's right, according to Islam, might not be popular with everyone.
It's about having that strong internal compass, guided by Islamic values. And it's about being mindful of the company we keep. Remember the Prophet saying, peace be upon him, that a person is upon the religion of their close friend.
It's about surrounding ourselves with people who uplift us, who remind us of our faith.
Exactly. Choose your companions wisely. And there's a powerful analogy. The good companion is like a musk seller, leaving you with a pleasant fragrance. The bad companion is like a blacksmith who might burn you.
Powerful image. It shows how important our social circle is. Now let's dive into those internal barriers, the negative thoughts, the doubts, the fears.
Oh, those can be tough. But Islam offers amazing tools for dealing with those. It's about strengthening our connection with Allah, purifying our inner selves. And one key practice is dhikr.
Dhikr, the remembrance of Allah.
Yes. Repeating his names, reflecting on his attributes, praising him. It calms the mind, shifts your focus to something positive. The Quran itself says, "Verily, in the remembrance of Allah, do hearts find rest."
It's like finding that inner peace, that refuge from all the noise. And then there's dua, right? Talking to God directly, asking for his help.
Exactly. Dua is powerful. It's a direct line to Allah where we can express our worries, our fears, and ask for his guidance. And then there's tazkiyah al-nafs, the purification of the soul.
That's a deep one.
It is. It's about constantly looking inward, identifying those negative traits, envy, pride, greed, and actively working to replace them with virtues, patience, gratitude, humility.
It's a continuous journey of self-improvement.
Exactly. And it's fascinating how these Islamic practices connect with psychology.
Like dhikr, it reminds me of mindfulness, being present in the moment. And dua, it's like a form of positive self-talk, but directed to Allah.
That's a great way to put it. And the Prophet's traditions, the Sunnah, they offer specific guidance on dealing with negative emotions.
Give me some examples.
Like when you feel envy, make dua for the person you envy. When anger rises, seek refuge in Allah from Satan. It's about taking action, countering negativity with positivity.
It's proactive, not just waiting for those feelings to pass.
Exactly. And having a positive mindset is key. It's called husn al-zan billah, having good expectations of Allah.
Trusting in his plan, even when things are tough.
Exactly. And seeing challenges as opportunities for spiritual growth. And don't forget gratitude. Focusing on what you have, expressing thanks to Allah. It shifts your perspective to the positive.
It's about recognizing the blessings in your life and ultimately trusting in Allah's wisdom even when we don't understand everything. That's where true strength comes from. Now, let's talk about uncertainty, that feeling of not knowing what the future holds.
Ooh, that's a big one. We humans crave certainty.
We want to know what's going to happen, to feel in control.
But in Islam, there's this concept of al-ghaib, the unseen realm. It's everything beyond our perception, known only to Allah, and that includes the future.
So, trying to have complete certainty about everything, it's not really possible.
It goes against the nature of our reality. We're limited beings. Allah has the complete picture.
So how do we embrace that uncertainty? It can be scary.
It's about recognizing our limitations, humbling ourselves before Allah's knowledge. And faith, it's about taking those steps forward even when we don't have all the answers.
Like the Prophet, peace be upon him, he faced so much uncertainty, but he acted with conviction based on his trust in Allah.
Exactly. We're encouraged to seek knowledge, to understand what we can, but we also have to accept that some things remain hidden.
That's where trust comes in.
Yes. There's a legal maxim in Islam. Certainty cannot be overruled by doubt. But this mainly applies to established facts, not the future.
So it's not about eliminating all doubt, but finding peace in yaqin, that unshakable certainty in our faith, in Allah, in the hereafter.
Exactly. And tawakkul, that trust in Allah, it becomes our anchor in the face of uncertainty. Taking action, then, is about accepting the unknown, fulfilling our responsibilities, and leaving the results to Allah.
That's powerful. It's about letting go of that need to control everything. Now let's talk about what drives us to act. Motivation.
This is where we get into the why behind our actions. The sources raise an interesting question. Is constantly chasing profit the best way to be motivated?
Whether it's material gain or some other kind of reward.
Right. It makes you think about what's really driving you. And there's a difference between extrinsic motivation, driven by external rewards, and intrinsic motivation coming from within.
Like doing something because it feels right, because it aligns with your values.
Exactly. Islam doesn't discourage worldly success, but relying solely on those external motivators can be limiting for both our personal and spiritual growth.
So what's the Islamic perspective on true motivation?
It's about ikhlas, sincerity, doing things purely for Allah's pleasure, not for show or personal gain.
That's a high standard.
It is. And while seeking rewards in the hereafter is part of our faith, the ultimate motivation is worshiping Allah because He deserves it, out of love and gratitude. And intention, niyah, is central here.
Actions speak louder than words, but intentions matter too.
Absolutely. Our actions are judged based on our intentions. Even everyday tasks can become acts of worship if done with sincerity to please Allah.
So it's about constantly checking our hearts, making sure our motives are pure.
Exactly. Shifting our focus from worldly gain to seeking Allah's approval. And there's this concept of delayed gratification that ties in beautifully.
Resisting those immediate temptations for something bigger, something better in the future.
Right. Islam embodies this through practices like prayer, fasting, charity. They require discipline, a focus on long-term spiritual benefit.
It's about sacrificing the now for a greater reward later.
Exactly. And the Quran often contrasts those fleeting worldly pleasures with the eternal rewards of the hereafter.
So practicing delayed gratification strengthens our spiritual resolve.
Absolutely. It builds willpower, self-control, which are essential for achieving anything worthwhile.
So it's not about chasing that quick profit, but having a long-term vision driven by our desire to please Allah.
Exactly. And that kind of motivation fosters true perseverance. So, after exploring all this, what would you say is the key to overcoming hesitation?
Well, from what we've seen, it's not about finding some magic secret.
Right, it's not about a quick fix.
It's about a profound internal shift, integrating these Islamic principles with psychological understanding. And it all starts with a strong connection with Allah.
It's about building that balanced self-confidence, understanding our purpose, navigating divine decree and free will, managing those pressures, accepting uncertainty, and finding motivation in seeking Allah's pleasure.
It's all these pieces working together. And hesitation, it often comes from fear, doubt, lack of direction, or misplaced priorities.
Right, and these teachings address those root causes.
It's a shift in perspective, moving away from limitations, from chasing fleeting gains, towards recognizing Allah's power, His guidance, the promise of eternal rewards.
It's a journey, a continuous effort of self-improvement, turning back to Allah for help.
And patience is key, celebrating those small steps forward. Now, how do we make this practical? What can we actually do?
The sources offer some great guidance. We can break it down into categories.
Perfect. Let's do that.
First, strengthening faith and trust in Allah. This means consistent prayer, being present in those moments, reciting and reflecting on the Quran, finding meaning in those words.
And making sincere dua, pouring your heart out to Allah.
Yes, and learning about His names and attributes, deepening that understanding, and surrounding ourselves with good company, people who uplift us spiritually.
Those righteous companions.
Exactly. Then, cultivating purpose-driven action. This is about reflecting on our ultimate purpose, the worship of Allah, setting goals that align with that purpose, with our Islamic values.
And prioritizing those actions that bring us closer to Allah.
Right, and seeking knowledge, skills that allow us to serve Him and benefit others.
So it's about intentionality, aligning our actions with our purpose.
Absolutely. Next, managing social pressures and those negative thoughts. This means standing up for our values, being assertive, but also being mindful of who we spend our time with.
Choosing those companions wisely, like we talked about.
Yes, and actively countering those negative thoughts.
Yes.
Replacing them with dhikr, with positive affirmations.
And seeking refuge in Allah from those negative influences.
Exactly. Then, embracing uncertainty and taking those leaps of faith. Accepting that we don't know everything, but trusting in Allah's plan. Making decisions based on knowledge, seeking His guidance through istikhar.
And learning from our mistakes, those setbacks along the way.
Right. And finally, nurturing motivation rooted in pleasing Allah. This means checking our intentions, purifying our hearts before we act, remembering the rewards of the hereafter, but prioritizing our love and devotion to God above all else.
And practicing delayed gratification, that discipline to choose long-term rewards over immediate satisfaction.
And expressing gratitude, recognizing those countless blessings Allah has given us. It shifts our focus to the positive. And speaking of positive, we've got these helpful summaries here. One compares self-efficacy and tawakkul, and the other outlines Islamic practices for managing negative thoughts.
They're like little cheat sheets.
Exactly. They really show how these concepts work together in a practical way.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up, let's recap those core ideas.
We've looked at that balance between striving and relying on Allah, understanding our purpose, navigating divine decree and free will, managing those internal and external pressures through faith, accepting uncertainty, and finding that sincere motivation rooted in pleasing Allah.
It's a holistic approach, drawing from both Islamic teachings and psychology.
And true confidence, purposeful action, it comes from that internal transformation.
It's about consistently applying these principles in our lives.
So here's a final thought for you. Think about just one of these principles. How can you weave it into your daily routine this week?
Take one small step, with confidence and purpose towards your goals.
And maybe explore these ideas further, see what resonates with you. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.